this is Editing KJ with a quick note that this episode was recorded before the WGA strike and the SAG-AFTRA strikes were resolved, and in some cases possibly before the strikes began. We're super happy to be back, so please enjoy this episode. My name is KJ, and you're listening to the Supernatural Opinions podcast, where some things in this world are supernatural. My pronouns are she, they, and this is the podcast where I talk to my fellow Supernatural fans about Supernatural, and we share our supernatural opinions. Today, I'm joined by my guests, Meredith and Tessy. Meredith, please remind the people who you are.
Hi, my name is Meredith. My pronouns are she, her, and the research for this episode was fun because I like Halloween.
This is a very fun Halloween episode. Absolutely. Tessy, please tell the people who you are.
My name is Tessy. My pronouns are she, her, they. Still debating.
Yeah, that's where I live.
I'm from Germany, and Halloween for me means my birthday. My birthday is on 28th of October.
Oh, so it's very close. Mine's on November 7th, so it's exactly 7 days after. So.
Yep.
Mine's in March.
And how long have you been watching Supernatural for? Like, are you new? Have you been here since 2005? What's the story?
I hope not. I think as a 7-year-old that would be a bit
I was in kindergarten in 2005, so yeah, I also was not watching Supernatural back then.
No, I had it on my watch list for literally years, and then I started in January of 2022, and
so pretty recent then.
Yeah, and was done in like August.
So you moved through it at a brisk pace. You got all the emotional damage out of the way, and I'm assuming you have brainworms now and have not been able to function normally since.
My friends and colleagues would say that, yeah.
That is a risk with the Supernatural, but we're really glad that you're here. This week we're recapping season 4, episode 7. It's The Great Pumpkin, Sam Winchester, which originally aired on October 30th, 2008. Tessie, I just wanted to ask, is Halloween a big deal in Germany? Like, how is it a thing that is happening?
I'm always questioning where it's really such a big thing in the US, as it seems in movies and shows. Yeah, trick-and-treating is a thing for kids. There's the occasional party for older people. I mean,
people who aren't like people who aren't small children.
Yeah, there's a little gap between like 10, 11, and 15 where it's just not relevant.
Yeah, it's like that here.
And then the party going starts.
Yeah, I would say there's probably more adults here that are into Halloween than I have gathered most of the rest of the world.
Yeah, I can confirm it is kind of a big thing here. We really like Halloween. Beth
and Jamie don't do Halloween, really. Like, it's like a few people do it, but like just small kids pretty much. Like, it's not a thing in Australia.
Lost.
So I was just curious.
Pretty similar here. It's not a big thing after like 10, 11, but there are some parties going on, and some German states have the 1st of November off.
Okay.
It's a bank holiday, so
that makes it more of a party. That's more of an incentive to party anytime there's a day off the following day.
Oh yeah, I just love the excuse to wear costumes and collect candy.
I get that.
Yeah, valid. The title of this episode is a reference to It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, which is one of my favorite Peanuts holiday specials. It originally aired in 1966. It was the 3rd ever Peanuts special, and it was the 2nd holiday one. This one's like so near and dear to my heart. If you're not familiar with it, anybody out there, next Halloween, you definitely should be watching it. And B, I'll just tell you a little bit about it. Linus is made fun of for believing in the Great Pumpkin, who he writes to like Santa Claus, and he like convinces Sally to miss Halloween as well, and the Great Pumpkin to come, but Linus is still like very certain that it will come next year. Which, you know, when it comes to the commentary this episode makes on faith in God, or like Sam, Teen, and Cass in each other and in themselves, we'll get into it. Let's not hurt all of our feelings like right off the top of the episode. Also, like we had Where Are You There, God? It's me, Dean Winchester. Now we have this episode which has Sam in the title. I don't really think of that episode as being like really Dean centric. It was like the Rising of the Witnesses episode. And like aside from like that chat with Cass at the end, everything that happened to Dean also happened to Sam and Bobby. This one, I would say that there's definitely stuff happening with Sam, but it's kind of the same stuff that's been happening with Sam all season so far. Maybe a little bit less behind the scenes than the rest of the season, but there's also some very specific like Dean centric stuff that's happening. But you know, to be fair, Sam's more a part of the Dean centric stuff than he has been at any point this season. So maybe some blending is finally occurring between these two brothers.
It's a long time coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam finally meets Cat.
Oh my god, it's about time. I can't believe it took 7 episodes. But we're finally here. Yeah, this week's episode will contain spoilers for this episode. It may reference previous episodes, but it will not contain spoilers for later episodes of Supernatural. Additionally, you can also hear me discuss this episode with a different group of friends over on Saving People Queering Things. I did show up for that episode over there, and we had a good time. So if anybody is like really dying to hear me talk more about this after you get through this, feel free to go over there and hang with our other friends. This episode was written by Julie Siege and directed by Charles Beeson. And until very recently, Julie Siege was not on my radar as like one of the name recognizable Supernatural writers. But like she wasn't like Ben Edlund, she wasn't like Sarah Gamble, like she wasn't like one of those people who like I saw her name and was like, oh yeah, she wrote on Supernatural, or like I know very specific episodes that she has written. However, recently, as I've been looking at some later episodes, she's becoming like my personal chaos gremlin, and this is her first like full like written by credit. She's been a story editor this whole season, and she's executive story editor on the next season, but she only works on these 2 seasons. But I'm really excited that she's finally here because I am in the midst of developing a whole new appreciation for Julie Siege.
Oh good, I'm sure she appreciates that.
If she ever hears this, Julie, you are becoming my personal chaos gremlin.
It's like a title of honor.
Her episodes are quite wild and like varied. But Charles Beeson has been here before, and he was last year directing season 3, episode 15, Time Is on My Side, and season 3, episode 4, Sin City. I think this episode blows both those out of the water, like by quite a lot. But there is some stuff in these episodes that I saw in those episodes, like, you know, the like Sam's like really awkward mannerisms were like really prominent in Sin City. We had that scene where he like broke into that office, like apologized his way out, and like there was a scene in this episode that was like not dissimilar. But we're gonna get started by rating the episodes. Meredith, would you like to kick us off?
Like a 7.5. There's a couple things I don't really like, but you know, it's overall like a very fun episode.
That's very fair. Tessy, how do you want to rate this episode?
I said 7 out of 10 pumpkins, so I'm
Yeah,
around that.
Yeah, I was also in that range. I was like debating a 7 or an 8. I went with an 8 out of 10. It's good. It's fine. I enjoyed it. I also have a couple of things that I don't like. One thing in particular that I'm sick of complaining about, but I feel like I have to complain about it every other episode because the show has problems. Total death count. This week we saw 5 deaths, bringing our on-screen total to 282. That number seems low. Let me just check and make sure that's the correct number. I don't trust that number. I feel like we hit 282. Nope, that's the right number. And our on and off screen total for this episode was 5+. It looked like only one kid died in the mausoleum, but it was hard to actually tell if other kids also died. Plus, like the zombies and the ghosts are like a somewhat gray area in the on and off screen count. But that show total is now 1,931 plus. Angelic Dust this week, the Heavenly Host didn't lose any angels as far as we know. But now I'm wondering if instead of this, we should have been counting seals, because apparently we lost a few behind the scenes since we last saw Cass.
Oopsie.
Like last time we actually saw Cass was in Are You There, God? It's Me, Dean Winchester, and Cass was like explaining how the seals work. And now he's back. This is our next encounter with an actual seal, and he's like, oh, by the way, we've actually lost a couple more. And that's important information that Cass has not been showing up to inform us about. I feel like a status report anytime we lose a seal just should be a given, but who am I to question?
We could be talking to Dean. We don't know.
But we're gonna get into the recap. It's clearly almost Halloween, and then we're gonna find out it's like 2 days before Halloween. And Mom is returning home from the store with a Costco-sized bucket of candy, and her husband is like really itching to just have some candy. And this so reminded me of my dad. My mom buys like Costco-sized things of candy, and like we can't open them until the day of whatever holiday it is. But once they're open, like if they do get opened like 2 or 3 days before, then we must eat them. Like there's no in between.
Oh yeah, I'm always one of those people who's like secretly praying that we don't get a lot of kids on Halloween because I want the leftovers for myself.
I bought a lot of candy last year, and now I live in an apartment building, so I wasn't sure like what the Halloween vibe was going to be. There aren't that lot of kids in my building. They go trick or treat out in the neighborhood. We live in a pretty nice neighborhood, like very residential, and so like there was no kids, and I got to eat all that candy except for when I had my family over and left my family unattended in my apartment for a couple of hours. You know, they were hungry. There was just a bowl of candy sitting there. Who's to say what happened?
And we all know how nurturing candy is for an empty stomach.
There was dinner before I left them there. They were well fed. It's just that the candy was out. Kind of like Dean in this episode, who continues to eat candy even though he very clearly has a stomachache. He's still actively eating the candy. Like it's just there. You kind of just eat it. Like
it's a compulsion.
I have that.
Wait.
If there's food out in front of me, I will eat it and then I'll be full. And then if it keeps sitting out in front of me, I will keep picking at it.
Yeah, I just don't buy candy usually because I will eat it.
Seems smart. The rest of us
smart.
haven't reached that level yet.
But Mrs. Wallace takes their baby upstairs to have a bath, and he like sneaks a piece, and there's a razor blade in his mouth. Y'all know I don't like mouths. There was lots of inside of the mouth shots in this, and I didn't enjoy them.
Yeah, no.
He spits up a bunch more razor blades. The wife comes back. Luke's dead. There's a title card. Then Sam's interviewing the wife. It's now the day before Halloween, so they've gotten a quick turnaround time on this. He's looking so cute and serious in his little suit, but Luke swallowed 4 razor blades, which is a lot of razor blades for one piece of candy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved poison candy myths. I had a brief interest in them. They're like a Halloween staple. My dad used to check all of our candy when we got home. Anything that was homemade or in a Ziploc bag instead of like individually packaged. I'm sorry, but we threw it out.
Oh yeah, my dad used to do that too.
Yeah, the thing about this urban legend is it's literally a myth. There are 0 documented cases of strangers poisoning kids. There are a few cases of adults using that myth to cover up other nefarious behavior or like kids tampering with their own candy. The real danger on Halloween is kids being hit by cars. Just drive safely and mind your children if you're out with children on Halloween or any other time.
Use costumes that have fluorescent strips.
Yeah, some reflection.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
No, I remember the one true crime case where the dad poisoned the candy.
Yeah.
Because he wanted the insurance.
Yeah, that's happened a couple of times. But there was a dentist handed out candy-coated laxatives in like 1959 or something like that. And then obviously the 1982 Tylenol murders happened in like September and October. And like that, I think really fueled this whole mythos. But like, it's just not really a thing that happens, despite literally everybody knowing the story of it happening. Dean's checking the house that they are at looking for a hex bag, which they find. And then they're back at the motel and Sam's researching. Dean comes in with some more like Halloween candy because he's a snacky boy and he likes candy and he's unbothered by the razor blade choking thing that they're literally investigating right now.
As soon as the hex bag is going, it's safe, right?
Clearly the other candy could just not be affected. And Sam's all grumpy about Halloween. He's like, every day's Halloween for us. And Dean's like, don't be a downer. Sam hating Halloween is like the very first thing we ever really learned about Sam. It's so special to me personally how much he dislikes the holidays.
I mean, I get it. Everything, it is Halloween for them every day. And it's close to his mom's and girlfriend's.
Yeah. I'm really glad that that's brought up in this episode. But like, because yeah, like it's just like a sad time of year for them. And like generally, and then like every holiday is just like growing up just must have been a reminder of like how fucking weird their lives are. But like Halloween most of all. Like,
oh yeah, like every day they wear costumes, they have monsters and they eat terrible food.
Yeah.
Halloween.
the hex bag is not your typical hex bag. It's weird. It's got old shit in it, including a bone from a newborn baby. It's like 100 years old, and something else that was like 600 years old. Dean's like all like, I hate witches. They're so gross.
This is definitely not like a Costco hex bag.
No, it's not your run of the mill like backyard like Malice Maleficarum witches who were just like book clubbing it.
I respect them.
I don't, because they asked for dumb things, but
they were so annoying, but I respect the drive.
Luke Wallace was a normal dude, and they can't imagine anyone caring enough to want him dead. Dean says he's so vanilla, he makes vanilla look spicy. Like, okay, you don't have to be so judgy, but okay. Some people are just normal dudes with wives and babies. Like, that is just the life some people lead.
And unfortunate sweet teeth.
Yeah, Ashley Benson's here. I love Ashley Benson, most known for her role as Hannah Marin on Pretty Little Liars, which she's incredible in, if anybody's wondering. If you're into off the wall like TV shows, like if you like Riverdale, I would recommend Pretty Little Liars. Like, it is the same vein of off the wallness, but she's great in that. But this was right in between when she was on Pretty Little Liars and when she was on Days of Our Lives as Abby Devereaux from 2004 to 2007. I read through the wiki page for the character, but this is soap opera that's been on for so fucking long. I think you need the context of like just having watched it every day or every week or however often this thing airs to understand the insanity that I read through on this page. But it did not overlap with Jen's time on the show, which happened like quite a few years before that. I think Jensen left in 2000. But yeah, I did check. Honestly, it was so weird because I read through the Abby Devereaux page, and then I read through the Eric Brady page, which is the character that Jensen plays. And like there weren't even like overlapping characters.
Yeah, I have no idea what Days of Our Lives is even about. It's just a title to me.
Apparently. But like I was like, oh, is this person this like connected to the? I couldn't even find how their characters were even on the same show.
All I know is Joey Tribbiani was on it once.
Ashley, aka Tracy, is at a high school Halloween party as a cheerleader. Her friend is Jenny. She's dressed as like a doctor or a nurse. It's not dissimilar from Jess's OG Halloween costume in the pilot. The party's like kind of lame, but Tracy is like trying to be sexy and like bobbing for apples. There's a guy, Justin, who's really into it. And like Jenny is obviously interested in Justin. And so she wants to bob for apples and also look as sexy as Ashley Benson. It's a tough act to follow.
Yeah, but who came up with the idea of a white dress and water?
Just not a good combination. I feel like that was probably the intent because Supernatural loves to put Supernatural loves to put someone who's about to die in a white outfit, and then they also love to just like be as gross as possible about questionably aged girls.
They love to sexualize teenagers.
But I also did think it was like very interesting that she was dressed sort of like Jess, and then she dies like 3 days before the anniversary of Jess's death.
I want to know if that was intentional, because it could have just been Supernatural being like accidentally cool again.
It was probably accidental. But like there are a million sexy things to be for Halloween. I mean, doctor/nurse is like high on the list of like go-tos. I think.
I wonder why that is.
No idea. I think people just like to like make like sexy versions of any outfit or any like career that has a uniform.
Do people really dress like that?
I haven't I mean, to be fair, it's so cold here by the time Halloween comes around that like it really does deter a lot of the sexy outfits. But like, yeah, I've definitely seen those outfits for sale.
Oh yeah, they're like really commonly sold, and it's kind of annoying because like those are most of the adult women costumes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to dress that way, then your options are limited. But if you do want to dress that way, then
and again,
you have so many
cold
options
here by Halloween. Like we get snow that like early in like the season. Like there's Halloween costumes should always be able to go over top of a snowsuit if required. That's the rule on sizing. Like, okay, does this fit you? Would it fit you if we added like 3 inches of of jacket and snow pants and everything?
If you're one of the people handing out candy, you can stay inside your house. So.
Yeah. Anyway, Jenny like boils and she like can't get out of the tub. She drowns and like they can't pull her out until she is dead. Sam and Dean show up. They're still looking cute, and they've also got like matching ties. Like they're slightly different colors, but they're like the same kind of stripes. I think in like opposite directions. I think it's really cute that they match.
That's adorable.
Dean thinks that Tracy's cute, and Sam just goes jailbait. And Dean swears he would never. And this is sitting at the very weird line that this entire season sits at of, is this a joke or not? Because I truly believe that Dean would never touch a teenager, but this season is working so hard to like re-sexualize Dean Winchester that it's hard to tell if Julie / Charles / Jensen are all on the same page about that, and if they're on the same page as me about that.
Yeah, they do so dirty with
it's really bad. It's quite bad.
I swear he's made comments about like teenage girls before, but again, I don't really think he'd cross the line.
I truly believe he just never would. Like I do think anytime he makes comments is performative. I just think he shouldn't be making that performance. Like that's just not me. But also like we've seen him actually interact with teenage girls like Charlie from Bloody Mary, like, and just be like incredibly like tender and like kind and like not at all interested sexually, because like that's a child. And like it just doesn't make sense that sometimes that's a child and sometimes that's not, like sometimes that's a potential sexual process.
Sometimes that's prey.
Yeah, I don't like it. And I wish that the show would stop trying to like toe that line, because I just truly believe he would never. Dean's alias is Agent Seeger after Bob Seger, which is nice. I love Bob Seger, and I love that Dean loves Bob Seger. Tracy says that she doesn't know Luke. She doesn't think that Jenny knew Luke, and Sam finds another hex bag. So we are on to witches. Back in the motel, they're also like, Jenny's also got nothing going on. I'm like, yeah, because she's a dumb kid. Like, of course she doesn't have any reason to be targeted by a witch. Like, she's literally just a teenage girl. Like, she's probably she's at a lame Halloween party with no alcohol. Like, she's got nothing going on. Sam's like, maybe it's not about revenge. Maybe it's a spell, because he's found this spell that needs 3 sacrifices in the day, like 2 to 3 days leading up to Halloween to summon Samhain, which is like the origin demon of Halloween. I'm assuming Meredith's going to tell us something about that later, and I'm just going to skip all of Sam's explanation.
You can say his explanation, because my research is on that subject, but it's very different from this episode.
I just didn't really care.
It's fair.
Watch the episode. I don't want to. I mean, if you want me to go through it, you might as well just watch the episode for yourself. Like, I don't have anything to add. Dean makes a take back the night joke, and I have full faith that Dean, despite his dubious moments, would actually never touch a teenage girl or like anything like that, or intentionally make a woman uncomfortable or actually engage in any sort of non-consensual sexual assault situation. However, just that joke's not for you. It is a clever joke. Like in 1972, women at the University of Southern Florida dressed up in like black capes and broomsticks and like marched on campus demanding resources for women's safety, and like Take Back the Night became a slogan for women's safety and like anti-pornography rallies in like the 70s and 80s. There's a really great timeline about it on takebackthenight.org/history. I'll put that link in the episode description. It has like a great timeline with like photos and flyers. My personal favorite was there was a chant sheet for rallies, I think from San Francisco, just based on context, which includes some like very general chants, but there's also some like very specifically pro-lesbian, anti-racist, pro-abortion chants on there, and there's some like specific chants depending like where you are. I'm guessing the locations on there are like specific buildings or streets, but I just enjoyed reading through those. There was lots of that were like pro-lesbian, and I was very happy to see them. Samhain is like really bad news, and every bad thing that they've ever fought would just swarm to him and slaughter everybody nearby. Obviously, the Winchesters aren't super excited about that prospect.
I feel like most people wouldn't be.
It's now Halloween. This is when we have Dean on a stakeout of the wall of his house, and he like is clearly having stomach cramps. Like his stomach hurts, but he's still actively eating the Halloween candy. It's like that compulsive need to eat whatever food's in front of him, which is just like a little bit of his ADHD combined with like childhood food insecurity. It's really created a monster.
That's not a good mix.
It's a bad mix when it comes to this very specific situation of like being in a car with a bucket of candy, because he's eating the whole thing. Tracy is the Wallace's babysitter, so she straight up lied about not knowing Luke Wallace. And Dean then goes back to the motel and he's talking about Sam. He's filling him in, and he's like, if I could pick a costume to come back in, I would also pick a hot cheerleader. And Sam has side eye about it, but changes the subject because he does not want to touch that trans Dean rights moment.
Am I the only one imagining Dean in in a cheerleading costume?
I mean, I feel like no. I feel like you're definitely not alone. I'm a big fan. Send me all your trans Winchesters fanfic, trans Deem, trans Sam. I love all of it.
It's the image of Jensen in like the mini skirt with the bare midriff, the pom poms. I think you'd work it. I think you'd do great.
It's gonna be like so long. It's gonna be like a year before this episode actually like sees the light of day at this point, based on how things are currently going. But like all the pictures people have done of Dean in the pink outfit from Barbie, the pink cowgirl outfit that Barbie wears in the Barbie movie, impeccable. So I've seen probably like 12 drawings of Dean in that outfit, and like I'll take 12 more. Send them to my inbox because like they probably won't be just like floating on the timeline by the time this episode comes out. So if you still have them, just like send them to me so I can relive the like couple of weeks that we've been having.
I've seen none of them.
Why limit yourself to that outfit? There were lots of good outfits in that movie.
There were lots of great outfits in that movie. I feel like people have picked the pink cowgirl outfit for obvious reasons when it comes to Dean Winchester. But yeah, it's incredible art. I recommend looking it up if you haven't seen it.
You should do Cass in the fake mink that Ken wears.
I almost guarantee that exists, but if it doesn't, somebody get on that like stat and send it to us. Like tag the podcast.
Like he lost his trench coat. This was all that was available.
That's exactly what would have happened. Tracy was suspended from her high school after a violent altercation with one of her teachers. So they go to the high school to beat the art teacher. Then mass in the art room, give Dean hell PTSD, and he's amused by a kid making a giant bong. And I feel like we don't spend enough time with this kid making the giant bong. Anytime I see this character, I automatically think Courtney from Veronica Mars, who's just like a delightful side character who's always stoned or like getting stoned or acquiring the materials to become stoned. Like that is his main personality.
I feel bad for this little stoner because his bong won't fit in the kiln.
His bong won't fit in the kiln, which is a problem. I mean, also though, like the kiln was there. You could have made your bong fit in there. It didn't need to be that big. If you're gonna make a bong on school property, at least be sensible about it.
I don't know, this art teacher, I feel like he either didn't notice or didn't care.
I'm gonna say, based on the like events of this episode, didn't give a fuck.
He just did not care.
Just did not care. Tracy was drawing some freaky, weird murder drawings with Celtic symbols thrown in, and she's an emancipated minor who has her own apartment. I have questions about that, but no one's gonna answer them. Sam and Dean appear back at the motel, and a kid in a very cool, like well-made astronaut outfit asks for candy, and Dean fat shames him, even though they have no candy because Dean ate all of it. Just because you burn 9,000 calories a day digging up cemeteries every night does not mean you get to be mean to little kids about their candy intake. It's fucking Halloween. You just told Sam not to be grumpy about Halloween. Like, go to hell, Dean.
And fat shaming a child not cool.
Like, don't fat shame this kid's like 10. Like, he's a little kid with a sick astronaut costume. This thing is like incredible.
Where did he get that?
Yeah, and he's just like hanging out alone outside of a motel. Like, that's gotta be a handmade costume or like really expensive. Like, if he's just hanging out outside this motel, I'm assuming either he has some sort of shitty parent that's like pulling a John Winchester, or he's a parent who like works at this motel, which cannot be a lot of money. Like, this is he did not get
that from Spirit Halloween. I'm sorry, I'm still on the costume.
No, me too. I'm also still on the costume because like this is a really small town. Like this is like a town with less than 2,000 people in it. Like this motel like if this kid's parents work at this motel, they're not bringing in money. This is not a tourist destination.
Honestly, like characters in movies and on TV always have the best Halloween costumes. It's just not very reflective of reality, where I was like digging in my closet.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just very upset that Dean was so mean and like fat shamed this kid. It's so rude.
Mm-hmm.
How would you like it if people did that to you, Dean Winchester? I bet not a lot. But they go into the room, and the room is occupied already. Sam draws a gun and puts on his most intimidating yell, but it's just Castiel and another angel, Uriel. We'll get to Uriel in a second. We don't care about him. We care about Castiel because that's who we know, and it's been so long since he was fucking here.
And Sam nearly shooting Cass.
Oh, I mean, Dean already
so funny.
Dean stabbed him, so like shooting him would probably be fine. This is the first time
Cass would not be impressed.
This is the first time that Sam and Cass are meeting. It's also a direct parallel to the first time that Dean and Ruby met back in season 3, episode 9, Malice Maleficarum. They're hunting witches. There's a hex bag in the motel room, and in this episode, Cass, in that episode, Ruby saves them from a horrible death. So I just thought that was very interesting. For the
little angel buddy and a little demon buddy,
and just for the romantic parallels.
Exactly.
Sam goes from 100 to like absolute 0. Like most people go 0 to 100. He goes from 100 to 0. He goes from I'm gonna kill somebody to oh my god, I am so honored. There is a freaking angel in our room.
That was cute.
And he holds his hand out to shake, and Cass doesn't take it. So he shakes like, are you like, don't leave me hanging? And Cass like reluctantly takes his hand and he puts the second hand over top so Sam can't pull away. And he's like, yeah, I know all about Sam. Sam Winchester, the boy with the demon blood. Which just Sam is taken aback. He is shattered.
I know. I felt so bad for him because like he believes in angels, he prays, and this is his first meeting with one, and it just doesn't go well.
Yeah, Dean's met Cass like twice, three or four times now, and like Sam's been the one all along who's like, he's telling the truth, like you got to believe him and like what he's doing and like what his plans are for you, and like now he finally meets Cass, and Cass is like just like throws this thing back in his face, and Cass just keeps digging, like it's not on purpose, but like he just like keeps digging that knife in and like twisting it because he's like, I'm so glad you ceased your extracurricular activities. I'm like, oh, that's Sam feels like a freak already.
Thanks, guys.
It's like big insecurity. Just like really, really under the microscope there. Cass says that Uriel and Cass dug the hex bag out of the walls. They've narrowly avoided becoming the third and final sacrifices to raise Samhain, so that would have been bad. And Cass is like, by the way, this is one of the seals. You cannot allow this witch to raise Samhain, and to guarantee that they don't succeed, they're just going to wipe the entire town off the map. And Uriel's apparently a specialist in town smiting.
Wow, I'm glad they have one of those.
Yeah, he calls it purification, but
they always do.
We definitely have different definitions of purifying.
Yeah.
I think ours has more to do with hand sanitizer.
Especially lately in later years. But Sam, they're like, we just came here to tell you to leave. And Sam's like, no, there are 1,214 people that live in this town. Like, you're not just going to kill all of them. Like, we haven't even tried to get this witch yet. And Cass is like, too many of the other seals have already been broken, which is like news to us. Because like the last time we heard about the seals, one was broken. A single seal was broken. It was the raising of the witnesses, which there was nothing any of them could have actually done to stop as far as we knew. This one we can still stop. Here's a bunch of other ones that are just broken behind the scenes, and we don't have a number of how many. It's just too many. I would argue really any more is too many, but like we need to get 66, which seems like a lot. So I would just like to know how many is Cass defining as too many.
Like 2.
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah, probably not.
He's like, we can't afford this one, so this one cannot have it. And Sam's like, it's fine, we'll get it done. And like, you're angels, you're supposed to be merciful. And Uriel's like, who said that? Because it wasn't us.
The Bible.
And Cass is like, the plan is a just plan by virtue of it being heaven's plan. And Dean says that Cass can question order if it's crap order. And Cass just snaps back with, when your father gave you an order, didn't you obey? Which Dean does not confirm or deny. I know I'm not supposed to be thinking about Sam in this exchange, but I'm literally always thinking about Sam. So I have Sam thoughts. Sam has disobeyed John. We know that. We've seen it before. But like the very specific example I thought of in this moment was in Devil's Trap, when Sam doesn't shoot Azazel/John. And then on the way, like after that happens, they're driving to the hospital and John says like, killing the Stephen comes first before me, before everything. And Sam just says, no, sir, like not before everything. And it's like kind of a big deal that he says that. And then he just like let Azazel go and didn't kill John. But for some reason, like that's what I thought of when Cass brought that up. But to actually make this about Dean, to bring it back to Dean,
I suppose
Dean's following of John's orders does come from like a lifetime of his parentification and like John's like militant treatment of them. Like I think it's Salvation or Dead Man's Blood when Sam and John have that conversation about how like John was more of a drill sergeant than a dad. So like obviously like, that like following orders is like so ingrained in him, but it's like specifically in like Something Wicked back in season 1 with the Striga. John held that Striga incident against Dean for the rest of John's life as as like a remember that time you didn't listen to me, you didn't follow my orders. Like Sam almost died when you didn't follow orders. So you have to follow orders forever and ever, because if you don't, then like something bad will happen to Sam. Like that's the correlation that John has created in Dean's mind as to like the order following. So like I'm not saying, because we don't know enough about Cass at this point to like make a judgment on like what Cass's situation is, but like it does definitely seem like heaven tells you what to do when you do it. Like it does seem like that is the that is the expectation. Dean uses the exact same strategy that he used on the demons in the season premiere at the restaurant, where he was like, I'm worth pulling out of hell, so you must want me alive for something. So if you want to kill me, you do that, but I'm gonna go find this witch. And Cass is like, okay, fine, go. Whatever.
The best thing about that strategy is that it usually works.
It does work sometimes. Dean's car has been like egged or something, and we're meant to assume by the astronaut. You did that to yourself, babe. I don't even feel bad.
I feel bad for Baby. But
yeah, I feel bad for the car, but I do not feel bad for Dean. That astronaut had every right.
Yeah, Baby didn't deserve that, but Dean kind of did.
Baby did not deserve that, but Dean absolutely did. That was just such a horrible behavior for an adult to a child. Anyway, Sam is really put out by his introduction to the angels. He thought angels would be righteous, and Dean's like, they are righteous, but our definition of what's right is different from their definition of what's right. And Sam's also like still carrying the hex bag that was supposed to kill them. And like, I trust Cass, but Sam and Dean don't really have a great reason to trust Cass just yet. And like, maybe we could just put that down or destroy it. I don't like that Sam's like holding it.
Why did they have it?
I mean, it's like taken apart, so I assume it's like not working, but like what if it does?
On the off chance, put the baby bones away.
Yeah. Dean then says there's nothing more dangerous than some a-hole who thinks he's on a holy mission. We've seen this sentiment from Dean before, and like has the holy, and like it's a little ironic because Dean just used the fact that he's supposed to do something for God as a bargaining chip to get what he wanted. Like
he's also completely right though.
Dean just was that, but yeah, he's also right. It's also of course like about Sam. Sam who like insists he can use his demonic based powers for good, that he knows better than heaven, that he knows better than Dean, he knows better than Bobby and literally everyone else. Because he is self-righteous. And Sam's faith in God and heaven has like taken a bit of a beating, but Dean says like it's just because these angels, like Dean says that just because these angels seem to suck doesn't mean that like the whole God heaven thing also sucks. Like for all they know, Cass and Uriel are on God's bad side. Like for all they know, Cass and Uriel have to deal with them because God hates them.
And I like that Dean goes out of his way to say that, because he probably doesn't believe it, but he knows that Sam wants to.
Yeah, he absolutely like knows Sam wants to. And like in the past, Dean has tried to convince Sam not to believe, but I think he's just like kind of resigned himself to the fact that Sam believes. And I think it also just like Dean doesn't like when Sam changes too much. So I think as much as Dean like will argue with Sam about these big like theology type questions, he doesn't really want Sam to change his mind, because it's just that he just doesn't really want Sam to like lose that like innocence or like grow up or whatever it is that Dean sees that as.
Well, I think part of it might also be the whole sibling dynamic of no one can hurt you except me.
Yeah, I mean that too. I also think like Dean's faith comes from Sam having faith. Like Dean has no faith in the system, but he does have some faith in Sam. And he like has faith in the fact that Sam has. And I think that's comforting for him. So I think that if Sam's like faith is shaken, then like Dean doesn't know what to do. But Sam like is looking at the bone and he's like, that had to be charred by like not an oven. Like it needed to be really hot. And he's like, there was a kiln in the art room that the kid was making a bong with. He's like, you could use a kiln to char the bone of a newborn baby. And they didn't get that hex bag after they talked to Tracy. They talked to Tracy yesterday. They had the hex bag after they talked to Don the teacher. So that makes them suspect Don the teacher.
I love the concept of an evil art teacher, because our art teacher at our high school was just so amazing.
Yes, literally an incredible human. Sam breaks into a locked drawer and finds a bunch more baby bones. Like the worst thing you can find in a teacher's drawer is like the bones of a baby.
But we have to give it to Tracy for covering up her tracks.
Yeah, I know. She did great.
She did a good job.
Yeah.
Extra credit, Tracy.
Cass and Uriel are at a park on a bench, and Cass is not thrilled about how much disdain Uriel is openly displaying for humans, and he still wants to like drag Jean out and like wipe the town. town off the map. But Cass is like, that would be disobeying our true orders. And what we're going to find out what the true orders are. But like, I think it's pretty clear, honestly, from this scene that their orders are not to just straight up destroy this town. Tracy has become the final sacrifice. Dawn's doing the spell. There's a lingering shot of blade on cleavage. We didn't need that.
No.
It just wasn't necessary. We get it. There's a knife in your hand. It's at her. It could be at her throat, but it comes down like really slowly and like lingers in the cleavage area. It's just not required to do that. You just didn't need that.
But here on Supernatural,
Tracy is really pissed when they save her. They like kill Dawn in the process, and now he's the silent sacrifice. And she goes out of her way to say that Dawn's her brother, which, you know, hold that for 2 minutes in your brain. And they've been biding their time for 600 years, and she's like, I just wish I could kill him. Which, like, 600 years is a long time to spend with your sibling and like pretty much nobody else.
He's right. She's so right.
She finishes the spell, and Samhain like is rising. Sam rubs Dawn's blood all over his face and like makes Dean do the same thing, and they play dead as Samhain rises and uses Dawn's body as his vessel. Then there's a kiss between Tracy and Samhain. We did not need to establish that Dawn was her brother immediately before we had this kiss. It just was not necessary, and I do not know how to better stress to the greatest of the show that you can just choose not to do incest. It's not that hard.
You could just choose not to make them siblings. Like, it'd still be creepy, but at least it wouldn't be incestuous.
Yeah, they are just business partners who have been waiting 600 years to pull off this spell, and they find that each other slightly annoying, but they both need to get this spell done. It did not need to be established that they were siblings. They could have just chosen not to do the incest.
It's very easy.
It's actually incredibly easy. I've never accidentally like done an incest before, like in writing, you know, like it's just not that hard to not accidentally write something as incest.
It's gonna go on your tombstone right next to about other things.
The thing about the child murdering.
Yes, that.
Samhain snaps Tracy's neck because, witches at the bottom of the hell hierarchy, and he got what he needed, and also sexual violence against women.
Love to see it.
You know, the little trifecta.
My favorite thing.
But the playing dead works, and Dean is horrified that Sam gave that a shot. Because Sam's just like, I read that thing and I thought this would work, so I just kind of tried it. This is the same energy as the racist Trek episode when I
was gonna say, like, Sam's done that before, Dean. You shouldn't be this surprised.
And I love Sam being arrogant. It's part of the reason why I like the like psychic Sam stuff. It's like not I mean I do like Sam when he's like a little bit bad, but I also just like that Sam's fatal flaw is his arrogance. And I like when the show remembers to actually use that. Yeah, they head to the cemetery because that's the logical choice, and luckily they guess right. And we know there's a party happening there with a bunch of teenagers, so, you know, good times, of course. On the drive,
did they change? Because they look exactly the same as they did 3 days earlier at the party. Did they change in between, or did they just...
Yeah, they've had the FBI outfit and then these outfits, and that's kind of it.
I mean, they probably filmed it that
they do show them like wiping the blood off of their faces at least, so like there's that. But
a wet wipe.
It's been a really busy 72 hours. They can change and shower and shit when this town hasn't been wiped off the map and Samhain hasn't risen and all that other stuff. I mean, Samhain's risen, so like that's a seal broken already. Like we'll get into that, but
we gotta fix that.
The immediate danger of Samhain is still very much present, seal or no seal. But on the drive over, Sam very gently, I thought, broaches the subject of maybe using his powers on this one particularly bad, hard to kill demon. And Dean's like, no. And he like begs Sam not to, and Sam doesn't promise, but there's a look that goes between them that is clearly meant to indicate that Dean has overruled Sam and Sam is not supposed to use his powers. But Samhain locks the kids into like a section of the mausoleum. The kids clearly do not naturally call Don. They call him Mr. Harding and then correct themselves. So like he's like that awkward teacher who's like, call me by my first name, but like it's not natural. Nobody wants to call him by his first name, but like he's trying to be hip and cool and like young.
And he's not any of those.
Yeah. He also like just, I mean, we don't know like how if Tracy's looked like this for 600 years and Dawn's also looked like this for 600 years, but they look like they're like 15 to 20 years apart in age. Like they do not look like they are like a couple of years apart. Like Dawn is clearly an adult and Tracy does pass as a high schooler.
Yeah, he could be her dad.
Yeah. Anyway, not important.
The but a little important.
The dead bust out of the walls and the boys split up so that Dean can fight the zombies and Sam can go use his powers. In my baby Sam's defense, he did go in first with the demon blade. It just didn't go well, and he like attempted to do it Dean's way. It just would have gotten him dead if he didn't like also use his powers. I just want to say he did try to do the knife like Dean told him to. Sam's immune to the demon tossing stuff, which is like new as of like the end of season 3 and like this season. Because like in season 3 he could be like tossed around by the demons.
His powers are growing.
Yeah, so this is working better for him. But he can be physically lifted by this demon. Like this demon's still very physically strong, but like it's still an impressive feat to physically lift Sam because he like lifts him with like one arm by the neck. But like Sam's so tall, that's like that's a lot. You gotta go up quite a lot. Like you're already reaching up just to get to the neck, like to then hold him up off the ground by the neck,
like a couple really centimeters.
You're really
I'm
up
sure
there.
my arms
Don't
be long enough.
yeah.
Hold up, let me get a step ladder. Gotta drive this point home.
Dean is dealing with zombies and then also ghosts, and he's just like, had enough. He's like, this is bullshit. He's like, I'm torching everybody. Sam is struggling to get his powers to do what he needs them to do. Samhain is making some ground, and Dean arrives to watch Sam, and like we have the heart pounding side effect, which is my favorite Sam power like effect that is like consistent throughout the season, and also like back in like early seasons as well. His head very clearly hurts and his nose starts bleeding, but he does the thing. And Samhain is sent back to hell. Also, his eyes are very briefly black, and that's a bad sign. If none of those other things that I just listed are like enough to be like, this isn't good, demon eyes should really give you pause that you're doing something wrong. You shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, somehow he reminded me of a mix of Eleven from Stranger Things and Harry Potter with the yeah, it's like it's a good combination of all the classic like fantasy chosen one power hurt kind of things. Dean's really devastated watching Sam do this, but he also doesn't attempt to help, which is really interesting. He just kind of stands there like Sam is struggling, but he's getting this shit done. Dean is watching. Sam could have used a distraction or something, like he was actually actively struggling to get this exorcism done, but Dean just stands there and watches, which I thought was a choice that he made. I don't know, I don't want to like condemn Dean for doing that. I think that is a valid choice for him to have made. I just wanted to point out that he could have stepped in and helped Sam, and he chose not to. It's the day after Halloween, and Sam's alone in the room. He's packing his bag. Uriel appears and brings up that the next day is going to be November 2nd. Obviously, that's what comes after the day after Halloween.
Yes.
It's the anniversary of Mary and Jess's death, and Sam should be horrified to be using his powers given to him by the demon that took those two people that he loved / should have loved. And Sam just kind of shrugs and goes, I don't know, maybe in the past I probably shouldn't have, but like this was clear-cut self-defense. I saved myself and Dean and literally everybody in this town. Which is exactly the thing that we didn't need Sam to have, which was like a justification, like a good, clear example where he used his powers and it saved people. Like it saved a lot of people.
Like he is right in the sense, like it did save a lot of people, but it's also, but as you pointed out, like it is a justification for him to continue, and we know that there are bad consequences for that.
And everybody's saying that he shouldn't. And Uriel says that just being told not to by heaven is a good enough reason not to use the powers, let alone all the other shit that comes with them. Uriel also like gets in his face and promises that the absolute moment that Sam stops being useful, Uriel will kill him, and Dean shouldn't be so high and mighty about shit, and advises Sam to ask Dean about hell because the angels love to stir up shit. This is the second time that the angels have exposed the brothers' secrets to one another, because Cass blabbed to Dean about Sam using his psychic powers back at the end of like episode 3 of the season. Now Uriel's here ratting out Dean for lying about not remembering hell. Yeah, the angels are just storing shit up and like driving a wedge between these brothers, and I think that's really important to remember as we go through the season, that like Cass and Uriel, we've like basically just met them, and their first like real things that they've done aside from like pull Dean out of heaven have been to drive wedges in between them.
Snitches get stitches, that's why they're all dying.
Dean's on a park bench, and Cass is on the bench next to his, because God forbid they sit on the same bench. That would be sitting too close. They would be sitting together.
Too gross.
They're literally sitting closer by sitting on this like close ends of two benches that are next to each other than they would be if they sat on opposite ends of the same bench. It's the same distance. It's just the like illusion of space.
that
but
empty
they would
air.
be on the same bench. That's different.
Yeah. It's so funny to me that they're like trying so hard to like separate them, and like it's only been like 4 episodes that Cass has been in at this point. And like it's already just like little things like that. We're like, oh, if they had been sitting on the same bench, I never would have noticed that they were sitting close to each other. But the fact that they're on 2 different benches close to each other is like, oh, that's gay. But anyway, they're having a real conversation for the first time in a while. Because their last conversation was very vague. To get Dean to go find Sam. They haven't really talked since Bobby's kitchen. Cass says he's not here to judge Dean and that their real orders were to do whatever Dean decided. This was a test of Dean's performance. Dean makes a reference to the Tet Offensive, which was a major military campaign in the Vietnam War back in 1968. No, something his father may have been affected by. It had a huge impact on the course of the Vietnam War. Dean defends his choice because he knows all these people that they're watching in the park around them are here because of him and Sam, and Cass says he also wanted the town to be saved. He finds people and humanity to be like art. Like all the people are different, but like they're all worth looking at. Cass says the seal was still broken and that's still bad, but like at least the town's still here. And then he confesses something. He's not a hammer just hitting nails as directed. He has questions and he has doubts, and he doesn't know what is right or what is wrong, or if Dean has passed or failed this test. And he doesn't envy the weight of that on Dean's shoulders. This is a very serious confession for Cass to give Dean. Like they've just met, and like to confess that you're having doubt in heaven as an angel is very serious. Like this is not like a casual thing. Cass cannot tell anybody else about this. It will be very bad. Doubt and questions are not allowed. So I think that this conversation is very interesting.
Oh yeah, and I think it's like the first real time where we see like a bit more humanity in Cass. Like he gets a bit more depth.
Yeah, and like it's directly related to Sam and Dean's insistence that this town is worth saving.
Yeah.
So like their humanity and like Dean specifically, because Cass doesn't really value Sam's opinion that much.
Oh, poor
They're
Sam.
gonna be friends eventually.
They're gonna be a chaos duo.
Just
eventually.
not today. Yeah, my favorite chaos duo, if I'm being really honest. But it's just not. Today's not that day. Today they are just meeting and they're not really getting along.
And you know, like in-laws maybe.
Yeah. I also think it's really interesting that like Cass is going to Dean while Uriel is going to Sam. Like these are happening simultaneously because like Uriel can't be as rough on Sam as he would like to be because Dean and therefore Cass will have an issue with it, and Cass has to go to Dean without Uriel because Uriel will not appreciate how vulnerable Cass is being with Dean. So that's interesting. Cass then vanishes. Like the episode could have ended with them on the bench like together, but instead it ends with Cass leaving and Dean's alone to digest that like sympathy that Cass has for him in solitude, and that's where the episode ends. So I thought that like little extra second was interesting. Not to like start dissecting this show frame by frame, but that is basically what we're here to do.
Yeah, I feel like it's very true to their current relationship where we just see Cass briefly and he doesn't linger.
Yeah, I think like if it had ended on the two of them like together, like without that like last little bit, like that would be a solidarity between them versus like this was like Cass offering solidarity, but then like at the same time leaving Dean alone.
Yeah, like this is what I can offer for a very short amount of time.
Yeah, I offer empathy, and I don't envy that you have all of this weight on you, and I am also not gonna stick around to even risk taking some of it on.
I offer empathy briefly, but I don't offer companionship.
Mm-hmm.
I think later in the series, he probably would have stayed, and the shot.
I think so too. I think that this is like a good marker of their relationship.
At that point, it makes sense that Cass leaves.
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree. Like I think Cass still could leave, but like we could have just not seen it. Like if they had just like cut out like a second earlier and like with them still together on the bench, like we could have just like implied that he left or implied that was the end of the conversation. But like the fact that they like definitively said no, Cass is gone, he's out, he's dipping, was interesting.
Or the shot on Dean and we just hear the angel wings.
Yeah. But it really showed Dean like alone on that bench, and that's just it was a very moving shot for me, even though it was like literally just 1 second at the end of the episode. But yeah, that's where it ends. Does anyone else have anything they want to add before we get into our segment?
Did anyone else notice that Dean is wearing ripped jeans?
I noticed actually. I did notice when he was on the bench with Cass. I noticed that the knees of his jeans was ripped, and that is not to his like usual jeans.
No, it does not feel really jeans, but I liked it.
Jean feels like someone who wears jeans that have been ripped. He does not feel to me like someone who purchases jeans that are already ripped, because he just assumes that something is going to happen to his jeans and they will become ripped on their own at some point, and he can't afford the weakening in the
yes, but they look like they were intentionally ripped.
Oh yeah, they do. They do. Yeah. They're very much intentionally ripped jeans. Like, they're ripped over the knee, where ripped jeans are typically ripped, especially on men's jeans. I absolutely did notice that. You can really see it in the bench scene with Cass. Thank you for bringing that up, because I didn't put it in my notes, but I did actually, like, I do remember seeing it in the episode and being like, oh, these jeans are ripped. Are his jeans always ripped? But yeah, let's start on some segments. Meredith, who is your most valuable person of the week?
I don't know. I'm gonna go with Sam. It's only a little bit because of favoritism, but he was the one who actually fought with the demon, and I always like seeing his powers. He's not supposed to use them, but I like seeing them.
Tessy, how about you?
If we go with favoritism, I have to say Cass.
I don't know if Cass has had an MVP of the week nomination yet. That might be his first.
He stays strong, stays omniscient, Cass to Uriel, that's purifying. The city is not what they should do if Dean tells no. So I'm gonna go with Cass.
Yeah, okay, Cass is. I mean, we're not gonna judge you here for that. That is I also went with Sam, and I am very careful about when I actually like give it to Sam, because I am aware of how much favoritism I have towards Sam. But it's gotta be Sam. He had all of the like hex baggy witchy case bits, the Samhain thing. Like, he figured that all out before the angels showed up to confirm that was what was happening. He also did the whole mind exorcism and like saved everybody, which is the only other way that they could have solved this without Sam, is to obliterate the town. Like, Dean could not have, like, this was not a demon that they could just fight. Like, it was either do the mind exorcism or like wipe out the town. And obviously we don't want to wipe out the town. Although it would have really been like a one for the record for the death count. We don't actually want to see the death count get that high.
Not yet.
It will.
It would have nearly doubled our death count if they had obliterated the town. So we're glad that they didn't do that. So I also gave it to Sam, because I think he did do the most stuff, which is probably why his name was in the title of the episode.
Somehow my brain always goes to Pumpkin Sam, like Sam as a pumpkin.
No, the pumpkin belongs to the Great Pumpkin. But
Yeah.
I see how your brain would do that. Absolutely. When you watch Supernatural, do you watch it in English, or do you like watch it dubbed? Both?
No, English.
You watch it in English?
English. I started in German and then was like, why? You understand English. Then I changed midway to
I watch it in French
season
sometimes,
1.
but I obviously, like, English is my first language, so I watch it in English. But I do watch it with the French dubs sometimes. Season 1 is actually better with the French dubs if you're streaming, because like the streaming on like the music of season 1 is all messed up, but it's not on the dubs for some reason.
That's interesting.
Interesting.
The dubs have the right language. Or at least the French one does on the episodes that I've seen. The one I really noticed is I was watching the Reaper, like Faith episode, and like Don't Fear the Reaper is obviously like so iconic. And on the English streaming, they took out Don't Fear the Reaper because rights issues, but like on the dub version, it's back in. That's when I was like, oh, this is the right song.
Yeah.
Now that I've said that, it's probably going to be untrue, but
And they know.
they're going to be like, oh, we forgot to change that. We were supposed to do that.
Oopsie.
Anyway, Bechdel test. We have 2 named women in this episode. We had Jenny, we had Ashley, we kind of had Mrs. Wallace. I don't think she had a first name, so I don't think she counts.
Tracy.
They did talk to one another. Jenny and Ashley had a conversation.
Who's Ashley?
Ashley, or not Ashley, Tracy.
Oh.
Ashley Benson, aka Tracy.
You're just so close now. You gotta call her Ashley.
Well, that's her actual name, like her real life name. So just be glad I didn't call her Hannah the whole time. Because I just rewatched Pretty Little Liars. But okay, so was there conversation about something other than a man? It's a bit of a gray area.
A man was present.
They talk about how the party sucked, and then that turns into them leering at Justin and then bringing Justin into the conversation. It's like, this party is lame. Oh yeah, this party is lame. Hang on, let me go get a man.
Yeah, but we have so few episodes that actually pass the Bechdel.
Yeah, I gonna give it to them because of the like this party sucks. Yeah, this party does suck bit. But the only reason I'm being that fucking generous is because we have not yet passed an episode this season on the Bechdel.
We're desperate. Okay.
Our last episode that passed was the episode where Lilith wiped out the police station with Hendrickson. That was the last time we had to pass. That was like several episodes of season 3 ago. Like it wasn't even like the end of season 3. Like that was like 8 or 9 episodes ago.
Yeah, we've had so many episodes that don't technically pass, but we've decided to let them.
Yeah, I'm willing to just give it to them. Like
because we're desperate.
Yeah. Okay, next segment. We are moving on. This week's case of the week was Samhain. Comes from some Celtic lore, according to Sam. Meredith, please tell us more.
Well,
something. First
of all, it's not pronounced Samhain.
Excellent. I'm so glad that me and the show could do that incorrectly for the last hour.
It's Celtic. It's Gaelic, so it's pronounced Samhain. It's pronounced Samhain. Well, there's a few different ways to pronounce it, but the one I chose was Samhain.
That found makes sense, obviously. When you like looking at how other Gaelic words are pronounced, that makes absolute sense.
Yeah, well, rule of thumb with Gaelic and with any language really is like Gaelic and Welsh mostly for the British Isles. The letters don't always mean the same things that they do in English. Sometimes they look really different. So always look up pronunciation. Second of all, Samhain was not the name of a demon. It's the name of a holiday that originates with Celtic paganism. Actually, I'm pretty sure they didn't really have demons in their religion at that point. Samhain is still celebrated in Wicca today from sunset on October 31st to sunset on November 1st. And it's the origin of Halloween. It was first celebrated by Celtic pagans in Ireland over 2,000 years ago before the introduction of Christianity. It marked the new year, the end of summer, and the end of the harvest season. Since it also marked the beginning of winter, death was associated with the holiday. On Samhain, the veil between the other world and our world was thinner, so dead spirits could visit the living. They invited and celebrated the spirits of their ancestors and warded off any malevolent spirits. And one of the ways people warded off those spirits was by wearing masks to disguise themselves as them. So they also celebrated Samhain with bonfires and food. They prepare food for the dead and then share it with the poor, basically. I also mentioned the other world. The other world has gone by many names in Celtic cultures, such as Tir na Nog, Avalon, and Annwn. It was the land of the dead, land of the gods, and later evolved into the land of the fairies. And if you listen to this podcast, you know that I like fairies, so I'm a big fan of the other world. Christianity came to Ireland around the early 5th century, before most of Europe, actually. Commonly, pagans converting to Christianity would incorporate their older beliefs into their new religion. And one really interesting thing about Ireland is that Christianity has been there for so long that many of their legends about fairies and the other world actually developed alongside their Christian culture. So the downside is that it's hard to get a complete picture of what their religion looked like before Christianity or what fairies and the other world looked like then. But anyway, Irish Christians kept parts of Samhain alive with All Saints' Day, also called All Hallows' Eve, on November 1st, and All Souls on November 2nd. In the 19th century, thousands and thousands of Irish people emigrated to North America, escaping the Irish famine and the apathy of the British government. They carried their traditions with them, and those evolved into Halloween. So nowadays, Wiccans celebrate Samhain with rituals that involve dancing, eating, enjoying nature, and building altars for their ancestors. These altars may include skulls or skeletons to represent the dead, photos of deceased family members, and apples, pumpkins, or other crops harvested in the fall. And we also have Halloween, which is celebrated with costumes and begging strangers for candy, and happens to be one of my favorite holidays. Yay. So in conclusion, holidays are cool, and you really need to Google how things are pronounced.
Yeah, I'm not at all surprised that, like, I've definitely heard Samhain pronounced Samhain many a times, not just in Supernatural. I'm not at all surprised that it's become.
They also did it on Merlin, which is extra hilarious because that is made in Britain.
Yeah,
it's like just stop disrespecting the Irish.
There's probably someone who speaks Gaelic working on the show, like
someone who just grits their teeth every time the actors mispronounce it.
But yeah, also if you're gonna use some cultural thing, please just do a quick Goog about how to say stuff from that culture. I know it might be hard. It definitely doesn't look like that's how you should say it, but like that is very common.
One thing you should also be prepared for is that you're just going to have trouble like saying some of the sounds that are common in another language. Like I spent like hours once just agonizing over how to pronounce this one Scottish noise, and I still don't know how to pronounce it.
I've watched many a video on how to say Saoirse Ronan's name because it's got all of the vowels.
Yeah, it's Irish.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Germans struggle with the TH. And it sometimes just sounds like the no.
Yeah.
Like it's an
yeah, some of those, and like German and English are funny because like sometimes they sound like the same. Like there isn't a huge difference between them, and then it's like one way that you say like one letter is like completely different.
Yeah, because they're both Germanic languages, so they have a lot in common. They're not the same.
Like French and Spanish, like they're similar. If you know one, you can probably at least get the gist of what's happening with the other, but like
they're from the same branch of the language tree.
It's a good time.
I have something similar with Dutch and some of the Nordic languages. It mixes a little.
We're getting into the point in Supernatural where like we're into the 2000s. Like Google does fully exist for the people.
Yeah.
And I did consider that before I mentioned you should Google it, because at this point you can.
We definitely told them to Google stuff back in like 2005 when like Google was not super common, but like we're into like 2008, 2009, 2010 now. Like you can fucking Google some shit.
And somehow Sam has always internet connection.
Yeah, Sam has an indestructible Wi-Fi connection unless he's needed to not have Wi-Fi for plot reasons.
You could have Wi-Fi in hell. You can Google the pronunciation.
Exactly. Anyway, let's do highlight and lowlight. Let's start with Tessy. Did you have a highlight and a lowlight this episode?
I love Sam and Dean actually meeting each other.
Sam and Cass.
Yeah,
that's
Sam and Cass.
We've all done it.
Yep.
And powerful women just throwing them against walls. It's
the show.
Something.
The show. But if you can find joy in it, I recommend finding joy in it because it's going to keep happening.
Might as well.
And do you have a low light, something you didn't like as much?
In the zombie scene, the blood.
There was a lot of blood in that zombie scene. Like it was like a wood. It was the amount of blood I would expect for like a wood chipper scene.
I totally forgot about the zombies. I was a little surprised today.
There was a lot of very aggressive blood very quickly. Like genuinely, like I would expect to see that kind of blood on a scene that involved a wood chipper.
And of course, Dean fat shaming a kid.
Yeah, that was very icky.
Cool.
Didn't enjoy it. Meredith, did you have a highlight and a low light?
Low light was just the violence against women. I don't like how common that is on this show. And just, a lot of it. Highlight is just Halloween. I think it's really fun when people do Halloween episodes. There's a lot of really fun themes, and especially on a show like Supernatural.
Excellent. My low light was the unnecessary incest. I'm not going to go back and listen to all of our episodes because I don't want to listen to myself that much, but if someone who enjoys listening to our voices should really go back and count how many times in the last 4 seasons we've had some sort of complaint about incest. Like it's not just wincest, but like a general pervasive use of incest, like in this episode. I've watched dozens of TV shows in my lifetime, like literally dozens of TV shows, and I cannot think of one of them that consistently uses incest as a casual plot device without condemning it the way that Supernatural does. Like the only other shows I can think of where incest is even like a thing is in like fictional like crime dramas.
Game of Thrones,
yes. Aside from that, like
pretty big one.
And like
Shadowhunters.
Yeah, like it's just like why Supernatural?
I don't know. I usually stay away from it because it's gross. It's icky.
And like Game of Thrones is like it is a major plot point, and like it is, I would say, generally more or less condemned. I would say it's generally condemned.
I'm gonna trust you because I've never watched the show, but I do know that incest is a pretty big part of it.
Everyone we know who's a product of incest has some sort of issue.
There we go. That's a pretty good condemnation of it.
And like it's rejected by other people for the most part, like other characters, but like it's part of the plot. Whereas this is just like background incest for no reason.
Yeah, this feels
like, why? It's not serving a major plot point like Jaime and Cersei Lannister having 3 kids together.
Forgive me, but this feels like somebody's kink.
Yeah. I'm gonna blame Eric.
Yeah, he's not okay.
We're still in the first 5 seasons, and we can blame Eric. and like at this point he's the showrunner, so like everything should really be going through him as far as like major decisions. But like it's just weird how pervasive it is. Because like it's just weird. Anyway.
At this point we have definitely established that Eric Kripke is not a well man.
Because like there's also like the thing from like episode 3 of this season, like with Mary, and like it was the same thing as in this episode where like a demon was possessing someone that was related to someone, and then there was a kiss between a demon and a human, or a demon and a witch in this case. Like
that's not a loophole.
Yeah, the person possessed by the demon is related to the person that they're kissing. But like it still counts. It's still weird. You don't need it. You don't need to do that. The demon can just be in someone who's not related to that character. We didn't.
There's different ways.
Zero reason in this episode for Dawn and Tracy to be siblings. It added nothing to their plot that couldn't have been added to a different relationship. It did not add anything. It was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, we already discussed the Samuel Mary thing to death. But
it's just so weird. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to my highlight, and I'm gonna take a little bit of time if that's okay with everybody.
Sure.
Do your thing.
Yeah, my highlight itself is very short. It's very sweet. It's Sam and Cass meeting. I just think it's very like a very fun like jumping off point for their relationship as characters and like their dynamic with Dean individually and like as like a 3-person family unit that they become. But I just want to take a minute to talk about ships. It's been a while, but I want to talk about ships and where I stand.
Okay.
Because I have some unpopular ship opinions and I'm here to own them. Obviously, my main ships when it comes to like overall end game ships are Castiel and Saline. So anytime I talk about any of those characters, any of those 4 people in reference to other characters, it doesn't mean I don't have like a side ship or like a minor ship happening, but like at the end of the day, that's what I want to see together. I want those 4 people to be off living their life.
This is a safe space.
Yeah, I just wanted to like super establish that. I do minorly, on occasion, ship Sam and Cass. It's not like a thing that I really would want to happen. I don't think that Castiel could happen if Sam and Cass happen. I think that is a line that I think would just be too hard for anybody involved to get over.
But like, there's like a tiny party that's like, what if?
But
is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I really enjoy Sam and Cass as chaotic brother-in-laws, but I also just really wish people were nicer to Cass. And sometimes, like, as much as I want Dean and Cass to just like get over themselves and be together, sometimes they're very mean to each other. And Sam and Cass are sometimes nicer to each other. And sometimes I'm just like, what if you just fell in love with that brother? He's a lot nicer to you. He cares a lot more about your feelings.
And doesn't repress as many of his.
I also feel like not the same way, but in like a similar vein, because we're into season 4. We're going to talk a lot about Sam and Ruby as a pairing. Not my end game ship, but I would argue like in terms of like the show as like a whole narrative, like I would say Ruby is like the largest relationship that Sam has, one of the more impactful relationships that Sam has. And so I just wanted to like acknowledge that I see how important that relationship is. There's somebody else I ship Cass with occasionally. I'm a big Dean and Cassie fan from season 1. I'm not as big of a Dean and Lisa fan, but like I wish they would have brought Cassie back instead of inventing Lisa and Ben. But like we're gonna talk about Lisa and Ben as well again. We've talked about them before when they were here, but
Cassie was underappreciated.
Cassie was so underappreciated.
Great. I think Lisa would have been better if they actually gave her a character.
Yeah, Lisa is just like underwritten, and I feel the same way about some of the other romantic partners that the boys have. Both Sam and Dean are just underwritten, underutilized.
Like the concept of Lisa is very interesting, but they didn't really go very far beyond the concept. Like she was there to be the mother of Ben and to be Dean's love interest.
What
and
if
like
you lived a normal life? What if you had this?
Like she comes with the promise of a family and a normal life, but she doesn't really have much of her own personality.
She's the same as Jessica in a lot of ways. Like she represents something that Dean wants, but can't really admit to wanting, or like can't really allow himself to want or have.
Yeah, basically. But no, even Jess had more of a personality, and she was only there for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, like half an episode. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. Like sometimes I have like little like, oh Cass, what if you just fell in love? Because I think like the other thing that I enjoy about Sam and Cass is like the their relationship undergoes a lot of development, and obviously I'm not going to get into specifics. We want to save those for when those happen and enjoy them in the moment. But like I think like starting at this point where we have them currently on their first meeting, where like Sam is on a dark path and Cass is like, you're an abomination. Like you are the boy with the demon blood, and like you're like something dirty, to like go from that to like where they end up for like justice for these two like little blorbos, because like I trust deep in my heart that Dean loves them both very dearly and like cares so deeply about them and their well-being, but like he's just so rough to be around sometimes. Like he doesn't have a lot of forgiveness doesn't come super easily to him. He's also not a big talker, and like Sam and Cass are both people who need to be explicitly told what is happening. So like Dean will have forgiven them, but if he hasn't explicitly said to them that he forgives them, then like they don't feel forgiven, and like that just like creates hurt, and I don't want them to hurt because I love them. Anyway, this is rambling so far beyond this episode.
It's fine. I think my favorite Sam Cass scene is, you have a guinea pig?
Yeah. Oh, so cute. I love that episode. That episode is another big one for the Sam Cass. I love that episode for that. Anyway, call CPS. Times when adults should be calling CPS. I'm a little concerned about Astronaut Kid just wandering alone, seemingly outside this motel that looks a little bit skeevy, but like they allegedly were involved in this egging incident, so like they seem to be able to take care of themselves. Also, Tracy is allegedly an emancipated minor who has her own apartment, and like that seems a little bit weird. It also seems like Dawn, who's posing as her teacher, openly admits to knowing exactly where Tracy's apartment is, and that also seems a little bit weird. Obviously, like Tracy and Dawn like know each other, and like their whole situation is like a ruse, but like
if you take out that context, it's weird.
They've been in this town like pretending to be a teacher and student for like a year.
And if they really were teacher and student,
and like the fact that this adult teacher knows where this emancipated minor's apartment is, would be absolutely concerning. And other people in this town should be concerned. Anyway, that's all I have for that.
I think we have to mention Cass going, saying to Dean, what if your dad gave you?
We've talked about those like past incidences. Obviously, we called season 1, episode 18 something wicked is the reason that call CPS was invented. Like we invented it on the spot while we were doing that episد. So yeah, like that is the origin. But yeah, it is always worth mentioning that John absolutely. And the fact that like the angels clearly know about all that shit does not sit well with me. Don't think that went unnoticed, because it didn't. I noticed that the angels were fully aware of that situation and how shit John was.
And they tried to use it against Dean.
Yeah. You know what would have been really helpful, angels, if you had fucking stepped in for these two young kids. Like maybe you're so concerned about Sam and his demon blood. Well, maybe if you hadn't left him with his shit dad for his whole life. Like, you know.
Are we calling CPS on the angel?
Yes, we're calling it on God. We're calling CPS on fucking God and heaven and whoever else is fucking in charge of Cass and Uriel.
Or at least this version of it doesn't reflect the actual religion very well.
Whoever Cass and Uriel are getting their information on John Winchester from, any angel that fucking knows about John Winchester, CPS.
Jail.
Firing squad. People who did not perform their job duties correctly. There was a real lack of actual police officers in this episode.
Well, Don was a pretty crappy teacher. He had baby bones in his desk.
Yeah, that too, actually. Also, he was clearly letting these kids make bongs. Like, that's not responsible.
Not really, no.
These kids are, assuming this is a state, it wouldn't have been legal in any of the states to do marijuana. It's not legal for kids. Anyone in high school is not legal.
I'm like, you probably know what a bong looks like, Don. Like,
yeah,
come on, you don't have an excuse here.
even excluding the fact that he's 600 years old, he's probably seen everything. Tessy, what's the legal status of marijuana in Germany? Is it legal, illegal?
It's illegal. They want to make it legal in some way. It's a discussion.
Yeah,
it's still a process.
It's been decriminalized here for a few years now, so I was just wondering what the deal was. Like countrywide, it's decriminalized here in Canada. So
we had a politician like 3 or 4 years ago say something like, wheat is not broccoli. Like, it's not healthy.
I mean, is it less healthy than broccoli? Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's still a meme.
Yeah. No, I'm just always surprised how many countries it's not legal in, especially like countries that are seen as like more progressive. Like, I feel like Germany is viewed as very progressive here. So it's interesting that it's not decriminalized there.
They're working on it. Just a
sometimes Canada does get ahead of the game on the odd issue.
Yeah.
We got in early with legalization of marijuana and gay marriage. Every once in a while we do a good thing.
Yeah, I like that people aren't going to jail over it anymore, but that means I have to deal with the skunk smell everywhere.
Yeah, it is a little annoying if you don't enjoy the smell, or like there's somebody in your vicinity that smokes regularly or somewhere that they shouldn't. It's a little annoying, but like I feel that way about regular cigarettes as well. And
exactly.
People don't go to jail for that, so
well, exactly, right? It can damage a lot of things if you go to jail over it. But it's like, I'm glad that you have rights. Just get away from me.
Yeah, it's not for you, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, there was a real lack of police in this episode. There was a few police at the party when Jenny died, I think. But there weren't really any police at the Wallaces, even though it'd only been like one day since this dude like choked on a razor blade. Like, there was no crime scene there. She was back in her house. She had the candy for them. Like, that's so odd.
Weird.
They didn't confiscate the rest of the bucket.
Like, a man choked on razor blades in that house. You should be in a motel.
Yeah, she was just back there with the baby.
With the baby.
That poor child has to be traumatized.
Like 2 days later, she had a babysitter for the baby who ended up being a witch. But they're just in the house. Like,
how are the cops not investigating every person in their life?
And the candy. Like, okay, this dude choked a razor blade from this piece of candy, and like she just has the rest of the bucket.
Why is firing squad for them? Like,
they didn't take the candy and make sure there was no other razor blades in there.
Yeah, the fact that the cops aren't really in this episode is the reason they should be fired.
Even if they did, the fact that they would have given it back after determining that there was no razor blades.
You can't have that.
Yeah.
We're locking it up.
Or like just distributing it amongst themselves. Like, that would be shitty of them, but like I can see that happening. But yeah, a real lack of police in this episode. Also, like, that kid, there was no, like, Sam and Dean didn't have to really worry. They just like went back to the motel after that dude got eaten by the zombie in the mausoleum. Like, that dude got eaten. There was blood everywhere.
But nobody.
But like, there was like 50 witnesses. Like, that thing was filled with children. Where are the police? But anyway, firing squad on the police of this town. Mental health check. I'm not a psychologist. This segment is based purely on my own opinions. Weekly reminder, if you're struggling with anything at all, please reach out for help. This week, Sam underwent a real crisis of faith. And he's not alone. Welcome to the mental health check, Castiel. It's the first time Cass has ended up in the mental health check. It's the first time he's had enough personality to warrant needing to get his mental health check. You get a crisis of faith, and you get a crisis of faith. Everybody's in a crisis this episode. Dean's also got his health PTSD continuing, so it's just like no one's having a really great time. But like, Sam and Cass are really struggling, and that makes me sad for them.
It's not gonna stop anytime soon.
Soul transactions. Presumably Tracy and Dawn have sold their souls to become witches, but we don't really have the details on that. But if they did, then like they got 600 years of life out of it. That's pretty decent, not gonna lie, as far as like soul selling can go.
I feel like that usually happens if like the deal you make results in you becoming a witch.
Yeah,
we've met a lot of really old witches on this show.
We haven't really met any yet, though, so like these are the first ones.
Yeah, but we're going to meet lots more. So yeah, I guess if you want to be a witch, immortality.
I feel like they overshot by saying it was 600 years based on some of the other witches that we're going to meet. Like,
maybe they're just special. Maybe they got.
You're telling me fucking cheerleader Tracy outlived like doubled Rowena's lifespan? That seems.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
But Rowena was a born witch, right?
Yeah, she's a natural witch. We don't know about Tracy and Dawn. They're siblings and they're both witches, so they might be natural born witches, but we don't know. We also don't know anything about natural born witches yet, so we haven't.
Yeah, I guess
our only witch lore up to this point is sell your soul to become a witch. Like, that is all we have. Obviously, the witch lore is going to evolve.
Yeah, I guess they hadn't made up that part of the lore yet.
Yeah, they hadn't thought of it. Sam's traumatic brain injury. He was struggling. He definitely had a headache, but he didn't get knocked out, so he's good to go for another week.
And we'll see what happens then.
Next week, no promises. I have no idea. Actually, I think Sam straight up dies next week, but it's like the least appreciated Sam death. It's the least appreciated Winchester death of all time next week, but not a concussion this week. So good for you, bud.
It's fine. We hit the undo button.
He definitely seems like he's gonna have an aneurysm at any second when he's doing that exorcism, but like it's not a traumatic brain injury, so it doesn't count.
It's a traumatic everything else injury.
One-on-one time with Cass. Dean and Cass obviously have that big scene on the bench at the end of the episode. This is the first time that Sam and Cass have even been in the same room. But they don't have a one-on-one conversation yet. They have not progressed to that point in their relationship. So Dean is leading by like quite a lot on this front.
And he'll continue.
Like a very significant amount. But anyway, I lost my spot on the spreadsheet, which is not ideal. One moment. I have to get to the right box. It's an extensive spreadsheet at this point in the game.
I mean, my cat tried to eat my note like 10 minutes ago.
Nice.
It happens. It happens.
Definitely looking at the cat's tail. Kitty.
Eyes off the hostages. I feel like there was a brief eyes off the hostage moment when Samhain just kind of like left Dean and Sam on the floor of that building that the summoning happened in.
Good job, dude. You're doing great.
It didn't work out great for him. I'm also confused why Sam and Dean didn't confront him like right then and there, if that was like the only plan that they had, because like we could have just like taken the kids out of this entirely. I'm not sure why we had to do a whole location change, but you know, it doesn't matter.
Drama.
But like, yeah, like Samhain got risen, they played dead, and then they got up and walked out. So
love the way you phrase that. He got risen.
I mean, he didn't rise, somebody else did it for him. He got risen.
He got yanked out of bed.
Name that episode. Anybody have any suggestions for this week's episode title?
It's hard to come up with one that's better than the actual title.
Yeah, It's a Great Pumpkin in Winchester is pretty good. Tessy, do you have any suggestions?
The one where no one speaks Gaelic.
That's a good one. Yeah, the one with Cass and Dean's first deep talk. I don't know.
I have 3 suggestions. Some of them are better than others.
That's always
I have the one where Sam and Cass meet. It's straightforward. It's to the point. That is the thing that happened. I have the one where Dean wants to be a hot cheerleader.
Mood.
And I have the one with the razors and the Halloween candy.
The one where Sam is not actually a pumpkin.
It's going on the list.
You could aspire to that.
Okie dokie. What else do we have to do to wrap this up? Line of the week. That's what we have to do. Meredith, do you have a line of the week?
I really liked Cass talking about how he views humanity and his doubts. I think it was very cool because it's like as I said, it's like our first real look at how Cass feels about things.
Yes, his first time being vulnerable and not just like an angel, very commanding and angelic. Tessy, how about you?
I like the exchange after they mask themselves with the blood.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
What the hell was that? No, people used to wear masks to hide from him, so I gave it a shot. You gave it a shot.
That's pretty good. Mine is from Cass. It's when Cass says, "And you, Sam Winchester, the boy with the demon blood." It's so just unintentionally cruel in the name, to be honest. Like Cass is in my mind like a Taylor Swift girly, and like he's really embodied that lyric. Because he doesn't mean to be rude or mean or hurt Sam's feelings, but he does.
This is why he's so autistic coded.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. It is very autistic coded. But yeah, that is my line of the week. That's all we got for this week. Meredith, where can people find you if they want to find you?
Pronouncing Samhain correctly. At Shades of Deianira on Tumblr, Instagram, and sometimes TikTok. And if you go there, you'll see lots of really cool artwork for the fantasy series I'm writing.
And Tessy, where can people find you if they want to find you?
I'm not really posting anything, but I can give you my cat's account on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's Socke, SOCKEE_Salem.
Love it. We love the cats. I'm sure other people would love to see your cats. So yeah, go follow Tess Cats on Instagram.
I bet they're very photogenic.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, the tuxedo is the cat's already got a little tuxedo on. How much more like any photo is going to be photogenic because he comes with the built-in tuxedo.
Just formally dressed, very sharp.
Always dressed his best. Next week, we're talking about season 4, episode 8, Wishful Thinking. And yeah, we'll be back for that. I've been KJ, and this has been Supernatural Opinions. If you enjoyed our show, the best thing you can do is subscribe on your podcast app of choice and tell a friend. Check out our link tree in the episode description for all of our social media and any other Supernatural-related projects we might be working on. Send us an email. Our address is supernaturalopinionspodcast@gmail.com, or reach out directly at KJ, at @KJ on all platforms. Thank you to Joe Veretta for our theme song, and our logo was created by Faith Ebert of faithanddesigns.ca. The episode was recorded, edited, and produced by me, Ed and KJ. If you want to hear more from me, you can check out my other podcast, Series of Opinions. And last but not least, a huge thank you to all of our guests.